Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, the place to go if you're looking at building an online store or a website. So the A7S III is here. Not here, it should be in my hands right here in like a month's time, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I started to think the other day, the problem with upgrading cameras. I don't say that in a bad way, because upgrading is normally a great thing. You're getting all these amazing new features, things that we have never had before on cameras, especially with the A7S III. But the problem is, you're upgrading from a camera that doesn't have those features. And I shoot a lot of things like weddings, corporate gigs, where you're often shooting with two separate cameras, two different angles, and they're both going into the same sequence together. It's not like you're just shooting just pick up B-roll with one and your main camera is just being used for everything else. I often am shooting two separate angles and I need that stuff to match. So you can probably see where I'm going. A7S III has 10-bit 422. A7 III has 8-bit 420. If you want to match those two together, the color science as well. The color science is now better on the A7S III. It was great on the A7 III, but it's even better on the A7S III. So if you want to match those two together easily and take advantage of all the good features on the A7S III, you're not going to be able to easily. So that's definitely an issue, and it's got me thinking, what am I ultimately going to have to do with the A7 III right there? And I kind of think that I am going to end up selling it. And I think I'm going to have to get two A7S IIIs. Now, I'll stick with the one for now, and I'll probably wait out till the end of the year. I'm sure it's going to be impossible to get a second one for a few months. There's also another rumored camera coming in the next 2 months or so, apparently, according to Sony Alpha rumors. So if that's the A7 IV, and it has some of the same stuff from the A7S III, then maybe I'll get that instead. But otherwise, I'm going to be going two A7S IIIs so that everything can match. And if you shoot multi-camera stuff and you need both angles to match, and you need to be able to go and cut between an A camera and a B camera quickly and easily and get the same gradable video, then you might encounter the same thing too. So that is something that you should consider. You might not be able to make do, depending on what it is that you do, with just the one camera there, at least if you want to use all those fancy new features. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but yeah, really there isn't any other option other than just shooting with the same specs from the A7 III, just on the A7S III, which, I mean, what's the point of upgrading if you're going to do that? So yeah, something to think about, food for thought. I started seeing a bunch of people posting on Twitter saying, I bought two, and like, these people are greedy, why do they need two cameras? And that is exactly why you need two cameras. If you're upgrading, you want to use those specs, you need two. Otherwise, it just ain't gonna work. Which brings me on to my next point, which is if you are looking at selling your camera in the future, I wanna go over some good practices, some good tips for actually selling that camera. Because let's be honest, it's quite the minefield when it comes to selling things these days. There's scams and people trying to lowball you and just, is this still available? Just silence. If you've sold anything on Facebook, you'll know exactly what I mean. But before we do that, a quick word from today's sponsor, which is, of course, Squarespace. If you're looking at building an online store or a website, head to the link down below, 14-day free trial. And once you're happy and you've decided, yep, I'm gonna go with Squarespace, which you probably will because it's really easy to use, really quick, you'll get 10% off of your first order too. I can attest to the fact that Squarespace is simple and easy to use. I have my own personal website. I just transferred my wedding website from a different company to Squarespace, did everything, it was super easy. And I have had a few things before that I wasn't sure about, and I had to reach out to their customer service team, 24/7 customer service, as you've heard before, I'm sure. I was having problems with formatting something, and they sent me an actual custom video that they made of how to go through and change it, and then they just undid the changes themselves so I could go and do it and learn myself. Squarespace, I can't recommend them enough. Tons of themes that you can pick from. It's easy to just select one, get going, and you can probably have a website up and running in like 10 minutes. So link down below, Squarespace. Now, if you are looking at selling your camera in the future, like I'm likely gonna be with the A7 III, also, if you wanna buy an A7 III, then hit me up on Instagram. Probably won't be selling it for a few months, but yeah, it'll probably be for sale if you want one. Just bear in mind that there is only one channel from the mic jack. I haven't got that repaired yet. I'm lazy, I probably won't get it repaired. So let's talk about some good practices when it comes to selling camera bodies or lenses too. The most important thing you're gonna find is there's a bunch of people always selling the same things that you are, and you need yours to stand out. The way to do that is with good pictures. Now you don't need to use your high-end mirrorless camera or DSLR to take those pictures. You can in fact just use your phone. For the most part, I do use my phone to take these pictures. The most important thing is your lighting and your composition. So having a big light to shine on everything is going to be really important. If you don't have a big light, then you can actually just use a window as well. Put it right next to a window on a table. Lighting is going to be key. Arrange everything nicely on the table and make sure it's all like rule of thirds and everything is straight. It makes a big difference. If you were looking at buying a camera and it was just thrown on the couch next to a bucket of KFC or on a table, which one would you want to buy? Unless you're hungry, obviously, then you're probably going to want the KFC, but you get my point. Looks and first impressions are obviously quite important. If you want to use your camera, by all means, you can in fact treat it as a product shoot if you want, which is a good test. Set everything up, take some really good pictures, edit them nicely. You can make a whole video about product shots and then just use those images to sell the camera after the fact. But before you go and take pictures, just give it a good clean. Blower, one of these little things with the bristles on it there, very, very soft bristles. Go over all the crevices on your camera and you'll probably, if you look quite close, you'll see that there's a bunch of dirt on there, dust, gunk, all kinds of things can build up in the crevices and the cracks there. So give it a really good clean. Wipe it down, don't get it soaking wet, but if you need to put a little bit of moisture on there, use alcohol-based wipes. That way you can clean it completely, and once you've cleaned it, it's probably gonna look pretty close to new, unless you dropped it and it's dented and cracked, in which case you're gonna have a hard go selling it, but you get my point. A cleaner camera is gonna look much nicer than a camera that's all yucky and covered in KFC grease. And if you haven't already, as the thumbnail of this video suggests, keep your boxes. Always keep your boxes for high-end products. If you're buying something online and it's used and you see it and it has a box with it, there's something in my head at least, and I'm sure it's the same for you as well, that if you can buy it with a box, it kind of feels like it's new. I know it's used, but it's like used new. Whereas if you just buy a lens and you just get a lens, it doesn't really feel as good as if you managed to get it with a box. Same applies to a camera. If you can box it all up nice, put the camera next to the box, you have all the packaging, it looks way more appealing to someone who's looking at buying it. When it comes to buying it, list on your local Craigslist, or in Canada here, Kijiji. Facebook Marketplace is a pretty good place as well nowadays. And there's also a really good website, which I've started to see a lot on Twitter, which is Gear Focus. It's pretty much like the eBay for just camera stuff. It's a really simple website. I haven't personally used them, but I've seen a lot of people posting things on there, so that might be a good place to check out as well. Now, when it comes to physically listing your camera at a price, be prepared to negotiate. So if you want to get, I don't know, let's say $1,500 for your A7 III, consider listing it for $1,650 or $1,700. List it higher, because I can guarantee you with 100% certainty, you're gonna get those lowball offers come in, and you need to have some form of negotiation. If you want $1,500 and you put it at $1,500, if someone negotiates with you, you've got no wiggle room to get the price you want. On top of that, make sure you know what other people are selling the camera for as well. If you wanna get $1,500, but everyone else is listing for $1,200, chances are you're probably not gonna get it. So be realistic with what you list the camera at. Another thing to think about is, and this happens for me all the time, I live in quite a small town and there really isn't that big of a buying and selling market. However, in a town like 45 minutes away, there's a huge buy and sell market. So I often list things in that town and then just drive out there when someone's actually committed to buying. Yes, it's a bit of a drive, but to be able to sell it quicker, probably for more money, it is entirely worth it. When it comes to meeting a person and selling, make sure you meet in a public place and agree upon the price in advance, and make sure you tell them to bring the exact amount of cash. If you don't have change, they have the wrong amount, they're not going to want to pay more for the camera and you're not going to want to accept less. So you see where I'm going here. Make sure that they bring the exact amount of cash. Make sure you always meet in a public place, not a back alley or on the back of someone's truck. Public place like a coffee shop is a great place to meet. Also, make sure you wear a mask, because that's a thing that we have to do now here in 2020. So cash, public place, wear your mask. And something else to be aware of, please be aware of scams. If a prince from somewhere is buying it for his son and he's gonna send you double the amount of money because he's nice, it's probably a scam. If someone is looking at sending you a check through the mail, first off, don't accept a check, but it's also probably a scam. If it feels deep down in your gut that something's off, something doesn't feel right, chances are it probably is, and you're gonna get scammed and you're gonna lose out on a lot of money, and I don't want that to happen to you. Thankfully, I'm very aware of all the scams in my area and I haven't had that happen to me, but there are a lot of people in all the local towns. You constantly hear in the news they get scammed. Maybe not for buying and selling things, but they get scammed out of money from people doing things online. So please be aware of scams. So I think that's it. A7S III, you're gonna have to try and get my hands on another one now and sell the A7 III. If you are, as I said, interested and you wanna buy the A7 III, hit me up on Instagram. I will be selling it in a few months. Yeah, that's that. Appreciate you watching today. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.